Since we are not producing aeroplanes, I didn't bring a video, but I brought a product. So you are welcome to have a hands-on look afterwards in the break. In the next few minutes, Michael and I will explain to you how we want to use PLM to support our vision, which is we want to make the world's food safer. If we speak about making the world's food safer, we have to explain the term food safety. What do you think? Is this meal safe for you to eat? It looks tasty, right? What about the pizza? I see many of you already looking quite hungry. Do you think you would enjoy it? Would you feel well afterwards? Or would you feel sick? Sick. If you eat all of it, probably. What about this breakfast? Will it give you all the energy you need for a powerful day? Or would it make you sick and you have to stay in bed whole day? So you're probably asking yourself, or me, what could possibly contaminate your food? What could be in there? Lately, allergens have become very popular. Everybody's speaking of allergens. For me, they pose no threat at all. I'm not allergic against anything. I can eat everything. But there might be one or two of you who fear traces of hazelnuts in chocolate, for example, or traces of, I don't know, celery in some food. Those people want to be sure if on the chocolate bar it's stated it's free of hazelnuts, it is really free of hazelnuts, right? Another group of contaminants that you have probably never heard of, but I can tell you they are frightening, they are really toxic, are the mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are various chemical substances produced by mold, can be produced by mold in the field, during plant growth, or during storage. And there is a lot of testing going on to prevent this mycotoxin coming into food, because in some years, 25% of the global harvest is contaminated with mycotoxins. But luckily, there are many regulatory limits around the world. Of course, the strictest present in the European Union, and the food industry makes sure these regulatory limits are complied to. Another class of contaminants are veterinary drug residues. So these are supplied by humans to animals. For example, you know about antibiotics used as growth promoters, but you don't want to taste traces of these antibiotics in your meat if you eat it. So we have to do a lot of testing there as well. GMOs, genetically modified organisms. I think there is no proof that they are really harmful, but especially in Europe, many people do not want to eat genetically modified organisms. So this is why if you pay for GMO-free, you want to get GMO-free, and we have to test here as well. Finally, this is probably the most frightening class of contaminants, are the pathogens. So this covers all types of bacteria like Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, that can contaminate food. And you probably know the symptoms of a Salmonella infection, and you don't want to come across it, right? So we make sure it's free of Salmonella, for example. You may ask me, where can these contaminants possibly come into the food supply chain? So let's have a look at the food supply chain. Basically, it all starts with plants. Whether we use the plant itself to eat it, whether we use the fruits, and when I speak of fruits, I also think of the wheat kernels, corn, which we mill, we bake bread from the flour. Or we feed these plants to animals and eat the animals in the end. So all these raw materials go into the food industry at a certain point, where a lot of processing takes place, a lot of packaging. And along this food supply chain, all these participants in the chain have to obey, of course, certain regulations that exist for food and have to make sure their raw materials, their processed food complies to this. So therefore, a lot of food testing is going on along this food supply chain. And this is where my company, Romerlabs, comes into the picture. So we are producing some, at the moment, 400 plus test solutions to detect these unwanted contaminants in the food at certain stages of the food supply chain. Sorry. We are a global supplier of diagnostic solutions for these possible contaminants. And additionally, we run 4 fully accredited service labs around the globe for those customers who don't want to test or as a reference. Romerlabs is part of the Urba Group. The Urba Group is a family-owned business headquartered in Austria. And Romerlabs is one of the 4 divisions. Unfortunately, not the biggest division, but heading to. Urba in a nutshell, at the moment we are doing some 280 million euro sales per year. We don't grow as impressively as Aras does, but for our branch it's okay. We grow at 18% per year at the moment. Urba has some 1,450 employees at the moment, 200 of them working for Romerlabs globally. So Romerlabs is rather small-sized. For Romerlabs, it all started in 1982 when the couple, Tom and Marie Romer, founded a service lab in the US Corn Belt, close to St. Louis. And after 17 successful years, they sold their business to Urba, which was the starting point of an international rollout, using the existing structure of Urba. So we founded a headquarter for Europe in Austria, followed by the headquarter for Asia in Singapore. And throughout the years, we founded legal entities in interesting markets for us, like China, Brazil, and we acquired company, our latest acquisition being a German company last year. And this leads to a quite impressive international presence at the moment. As you can see, the dark green countries, we can serve them directly because we have legal entities there. The dark gray countries are served via our distribution network, and the light gray countries are our areas for future development. The products we sell, most of them are based on a very specific principle for the detection of an unwanted substance. This is the antigen-antibody reaction. It takes place in all of your bodies, probably every moment. So our bodies produce antibodies against intruders like viruses, and we don't even realize it usually. In research, we can use these antibodies, or we can produce antibodies also against unwanted substances like mycotoxins, like salmonella. Usually it's a very tedious procedure to get a hold of such an antibody. It can take years to get a really specific antibody. But once we got hold of it, we can clone it, we can use it in constant quality for detecting these substances in our test kits. It's really as specific as a lock and a key. We apply this specific reaction in various formats, depending a lot what the environment at the customer side looks like, depending a lot what the customer's needs are. So the simplest format that can be applied at the moment is this strip test called dipstick or lateral flow assay. Basically, it's really just a strip. And if we go back to the example of hazelnut in chocolate, what you do with the chocolate is you extract the chocolate with a certain buffer that is supplied by us. You dip the strip into the liquid, it moves up, and within 2 or 3 minutes, 1 or 2 lines are developing, telling you the sample is positive or negative for traces of hazelnuts. A simple yes, no answer. Sometimes this is sufficient, but for example, for the quality control of a food processing industry company, this might not be sufficient. They want to have a quantitative result. They want to tell it's 2.5 ppm or 10.8 ppm. So we have other formats where we can give a quantitative result of higher reliability, or we can do multiple tests in parallel. Depends a lot. Depends on the environment at the customer's side and on their needs. So this is, as you can see, how a product looks like when you buy it. From us, it contains basically everything you need to apply the test. It contains dilutions, extraction buffer, everything, even plastic tubes to mix. And for me, and again, you might laugh, we are not building aeroplanes, I know. But for a small company like us, it is the first level of complexity to have 20, 30 components that have bill of materials behind, that have recipes behind, which we have to manage. These components are produced in batches, so we have to manage the batch information, the quality control information of each single batch, and trace back, of course, this information to a certain lot number. We have to manage the labels, and so on. So, first level of complexity. Second level of complexity is introduced by the fact that also we are a small company, we are running 5 production sites on 3 continents. This is based on our history of acquisition and making sure there is a certain level of documentation, a certain level of communication. You know the story. It's not easy, to make it short. And you might be surprised. Like Saab's Gripen, like helicopters, like urine centrifuges, some of our products are considered dual-use items. We face the same regulatory requirements, the same bureaucracy when selling these products to our customers as Saab faces it if selling a Gripen. Other products are considered drug precursor substances. So that means you or a chemist can produce drugs from it. And there is a high level of bureaucracy also needed before we are able to sell these substances to our customers. As you could see, most of these products are made of different chemicals, mixtures of chemicals. So of course we have to classify these mixtures of chemicals according to the regulation for chemical labeling and packaging. We have to supply our customers all these material safety data sheets for each single component in 22 languages. And of course we have to label them according to the globally harmonized system. So just a few regulatory aspects we also are facing and have to deal with. And with this, I pass on to Michael.
Thank you very much. I think this information was good to understand where we are coming from. And now I will explain you a little bit about where our journey in PLM started and where we are heading to at the moment. First of all, we have some pain. Like every time in human behavior, the pain point is a starting point for changes. And one of our biggest pains is that the product information is a little bit distributed now all over the world. We have 5 production sites, as you see, and not all the information is available centrally. It's not shared everywhere. I mean, we have maybe 95, 98% of the information is available, but it is troublesome if you don't know which information are the two missing percents, for example. So it takes time to get the information sometimes. It can be a problem really to get the right information at the right time, and then you have to ask the right people, and you may end up with obsolete information. This is a big pain point also our product managers face. They are located mainly in Austria, and they also lack sometimes some information. So this also has a problem in the terms of knowledge management. We have a knowledge risk because it's not fully externalized and sometimes kept in some secret places. People try to hide their information sometimes. It's not shared everywhere, so there is a kind of a resistance. And there is also no good overview about components and raw materials at the moment. So this has two effects. One is that changes are a little bit painful. So you can imagine, because you don't know exactly all of the components worldwide at the moment, if there is changes, then it can lead to problems. And the other thing is also in terms of sourcing. So we could probably raise some synergy effects in terms of sourcing if we know where are our components used in which products and do we have similarities. I would like to say it has grown. So the situation is because we have grown a lot and we have acquired companies. So the production units for themselves, they work very good, but it's not a global basis at the moment. And this was the starting point for our PLM approach. This was the idea. And the second thing we tried to accomplish is to get an understanding why we want this and to share this also with our board of directors. Because we're not a mechanical engineering company. We're a little bit in a different sector, and therefore we had time also to explain why we need this. And one of the needs is an external dimension. So we said on an external dimension, it will give us added value in the point that we will get a single source of truth for information. So we said all the information is a little bit separated at the moment. We want to have everything in one database to be able to handle requests and problems much faster, and finally to improve the compliance in terms of versionizing, traceability. This will lead us also to keep our quality high, to keep the image of the company high. And we also have internal reasons, of course, why we want this. We want to have our product know-how secured. We want to have one single source of truth, one system where all the information is located, and also the permissions are managed in a professional way so that the right person has the right access to all information the person needs at the moment. Saving manpower. I mean, it doesn't mean we can fire people. It will more likely be the case that we can save in the future, maybe some manpower. So we do not have to add additional manpower in terms of that we have to search for things, because at the moment we have some pain points there to search and find information. It will be easier to search and find information. There will be a clearly defined change management in place, and also optimize a little bit our processing, like the forward of the data to the ERP system or to a media center where we upload our marketing materials. And very important for us, we grow rather fast. We saw 18% compound annual growth rate, so we have to prepare for the future. So in 5 years or 10 years' time, the complexity will be even higher. We will have more products, more variants, more complex products. So we need to have a platform where we can build on to be able to handle our future needs. Therefore, a short outline about our project. It started in April. It's still ongoing. I'm the project manager. Elisabeth is very much in the driving seat in the Roma division to really push the project forward. We also have, of course, the steering, which is the managing director of Romerlabs, and the scope is the whole Roma division. You see, we have more divisions in the Urba group, but the scope of this project is Romerlabs. We have 2 cost blocks. Yeah, we know the annual subscription fees and the professional services for the implementation. So where did we start into the PLM system? the first step was really to raise the awareness. This was a very important point because we're not in a sector where PLM is clear for everybody what it is. So the question was really sometimes, what the heck is PLM? So this term was not known by everybody, so we had to explain it to the management, to the whole company, to the process owners. This was very important because we had to forward the information. We had to start at zero sometimes. And also going to the management, this is one of the most important points in order to make a project successful. It is to have the commitment of the management. And in our case, we have a very good commitment from the management, and therefore we are lucky. Also, proper evaluation took place. I will get back to that in a minute. We'll explain it a little bit. After that, so it's very simplified, the workshop was created, a workshop creating a solution proposal, also for us to know what a PLM system can do, because it was very new for us, so we had to find out still what is a PLM system, what can it give us, which values it can bring to us. And also costs, because we had no idea about where will the costs lie. So this gave us a hint, a very good one. So we set up a project charter and presented it to the board, and finally the project luckily was approved. And then we started to create a vision and a logo. I will show you in a minute. And we chose an Agile Approach. So the Agile Approach gives us the opportunity to stay flexible on the way implementing the software. Evaluation. We started with 10 solution providers, so it was quite a big list. You know, the big ones, or some smaller ones we included. And we had a list of criteria. And with this list of criteria, we went to the solution providers and asked them for all kind of information on a very base level, let's say. So it was not very detailed at this time because it takes a lot of time to go to 10 solution providers and have online presentations and all this stuff. So you have to invite people. So we said we will keep it short at this point of time until we have a short list with 3 providers. Aras was one of them, then on the short list. And then we continued with a detailed presentation. So we asked the solution providers to give us a demo really on live data, what we need, what is really interesting also for our process owners. So we had a group of people added in these demonstrations so that really also the management and process responsibles can ask questions at that point of time, because they also did not know anything about the PLM system at that time. Sometimes it went better, sometimes it didn't go so well, but finally we collected all the feedback and we made, together also with some information from reference customer, a solution, a decision, and selected the best. So what were the evaluation criteria? You remember we had a long list with 10 providers, and we wanted to get a short list with 3 providers. So most important, of course, is the functional requirements catalog. So we sent out a catalog with the RFP, what we think we wanted, and we just measured the coverage rate and then quantified it, how high this coverage rate is, if it is really capable in the standard to cover our needs, or do we have to do a lot of individual programming? This would be, of course, is something we do not want from the beginning. We always wanted to stay at the standard if possible. And then the cost over 10 years. Cost, of course, is a big factor also in the management. You have to have clear costs and comparison. And there we took 10 years. So the general approach is to measure the total cost of ownership. And here we took 10 years. Why? Because we also calculated that there will be upgrades, and we also have to evaluate how much cost will the upgrade be, for example. Perceived professionalism, I think it's clear, self-explaining, and the independence. The independence, we looked for companies that had a partner network, generally speaking, so if something goes wrong with certain relationships, then you at least have an alternative. Also customizability, we wanted to have a solution that is customizable by our own, so that we do not need all the time a third party or external programmers, because we wanted to stay flexible and agile. Upgradability, I mentioned it already, this is very important, very underestimated, because have you ever upgraded, for example, an ERP system? It's very painful sometimes, and therefore we had a closer look on that as well. We also checked if there is an on-premise solution available, not because we are not wanting to go into the cloud, but we had still to convince some bodies in our company, and we said it's maybe easier if we at least have the possibility to stay on-premise and not putting all the data into a software as a service or something. And the time on market, we don't want to be the beta tester, that's what we clearly said. We want to have a solution that is on the market and has proven already on the market to be a good software. Finally, we decided to take Aras Innovator, otherwise we would not be here today. Why is that? Aras is globally active, we are globally active, so I think it's a good fit. It's the state-of-the-art technique. It's really, we looked at some, so we had 10 on our long list, and I have to say it's the most up-to-date, the most state-of-the-art technique as we found. It's really also, if you see, for example, the roadmap and all the service packs and all the things which are planned in the future, these rich enhancements of features and also these improvements of the performance, I can really sleep well at night because I know it's a future-proof system and platform. A unique business model, so all things are covered with the subscriptions. New features, I don't have to think about additional costs, it's all covered already. Additional training, annual subscription fee, it covered all the new features, so it's very unique, I think. And also the cooperation, it was a little bit different than with other maybe customers. We had a direct access to Aras. We do not have a partner in this case, which gives us a direct access also to information. So the project vision, you see we created a logo. This is really a logo we created for our own project and our system. And right next to it, I think you can read, Roma PLM simplifies your work by being the one-stop shop for product-related processes and innovations to foster future growth. This is one PLM vision we defined beforehand with the core team so that we really know where we are going and want to go. This is just, I picked out these projected risks. When we defined the project charter, we had these projected risks evaluated, and the highest risks we found would be the complexity, adherence to time, and acceptance. Complexity, why? Because, again, we have some processes not clearly defined yet. We do not use PLM systems so far, so for us it's new, and the complexity is still rather high, but still we are not a huge company, so we don't have big departments just in this area, so a lot of things have to be done next to our operational work. Adherence to time, because we think we have a lot of homework to do. It's not because Aras takes a lot of time or something, that's not true. So it's because our own fault, we take time to define our processes and so on. And acceptance, whenever you change something, you will get resistance from the users. So you have to calculate also that. Then some words regarding the Agile Approach. So this is regarding really the development of the project. We chose this Agile Approach. This is now the waterfall, this is the opposite. The waterfall approach says at the beginning you define the requirements, then you start designing, development, at the end testing, then you deploy it, and then maintenance starts. Then there is the Agile Approach. You do basically the same things, but iterative. You do it in shorter cycles. You do planning, designing, building, testing, review, and this over several times. Launches are in between, as you see. So if you're not familiar with that, please have a look at it. It's really worth it. Why? Because at the waterfall approach, as you see, everything is defined in the beginning. But the problem is in the beginning, you don't know what you need exactly. So you cannot change along the way. Then the testing takes place usually at the end. So what happens is, here you run out of time and budget, and then you cut the testing, and then the quality is cut, finally. This could be a problem. And there is also, with the Agile Approach, you go live earlier, so it will not take so much time until your plan is really validated by the reality, by the users. So it's good if you do this earlier than later. And there is a prioritization, so you do the most important things in the beginning. So if you're here, here is already hopefully the most important things are done in the beginning, and at the end, if the nice to haves are cut, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this is just a summary. Then let's have a look a little bit into our PLM system, how it looks like at the moment. So we have defined already product metadata. So this is really a screenshot from Aras Innovator. We have product-related information, responsibilities, also competitor information, and all related kind of documents. A bill of material is also a very important point. So one of our requirements is to consolidate and put in all bill of materials we're currently having in all kind of production units. Link them together, ensure traceability. What is quite new, which was just implemented, is an approach for the product launch with the project management in Aras Innovator. So this was just a recent sprint, and there it's already implemented and looks very good so far. Interfaces, yeah, we would like, of course, to have interface to an ERP system, also to a media center for the product marketing material, and also to a LIMS system, or lab information and management system. So we also want to get the QC data from there. What is the current status of our project? It's 70% done in terms of features, hopefully. That's at least what we believe. Go live is planned in the beginning of 2017. We are on time and on budget. So you see the green traffic light. We have a high morale in the team, luckily. Yeah, the next steps are interface to ERP system, go live. And there are also some lessons already we learned. First question is, would we take Aras again? Yes, definitely, because we have to say it here, because the promises really were all kept. So it was not a kind of overproducing of salespeople. It was not the case. They really told us the reality, and also that was really this was really as planned. Everything took place in the same way. So we're really lucky to say that. What went well? Yeah, luckily adherence to costs, time, and goals. It's fully on track. We have a very motivated team. What was a little bit more difficult was getting people to testing. It's not as easy as you think. You have to really plan it beforehand and make some appointments, maybe together with your users to do the testing in the beginning together, but you have finally to make sure that the testing is done. And also defining the permissions was more headache as planned. And with that, I hand over again to Elizabeth. Thanks.
Yeah, who is this team who learned the lessons? Here you can see a picture of the core PLM team at Roma. And you see two faces you might have seen around yesterday and today as well. Andreas and Florian, our Aras consultants. You can see they mingle really well with our team. And I can tell you we have lots of fun implementing all these features. Yeah. I think I took all your, I think we could show you that we are on the right way to create even more diagnostic solutions so you can feel very safe. You don't have to hesitate. You just enjoy your meal and don't think about all the testing that's going on in the supply chain. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for Dr. Pichler, Hertel, for this, I think, very refreshing presentation. I do really like to have some examples that are not from a typical PLM industry, like automotive, aerospace all the time. So thanks again for doing the presentation. We do have maybe time for 1 or 2 questions, when there are any questions from the audience. So if we don't have any questions now, both will also be available in one of the unconference sessions later this afternoon. So please join us here, and then maybe in a smaller group we will have some interactive discussion about the project that you just presented. Thanks again very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.